Inquisition illness. A call from the soul generally comes in one of two ways. For some, it is a knowing that grows into a deep conviction and leads to action. For others, it feels more like a whap on the head or being shaken until your teeth rattle, which serves to wake you up. This is what happened for me when I first read Many Lives, Many Masters. Fully engrossed in the wonderful stories, I came to the end of the book and flipped to the final page, where Brian's address jumped out at me. In that instant, I had a moment of deja vu, when not only did I clearly see myself in America training with him but also experienced a deep knowing that I had found my soul's purpose in regression work. I suddenly felt sure that this was what I was here to do. It was no small feat to pack up, leave a family, and venture off to the other side of the world on my own, but soul calls cannot be ignored. I can still remember the amazement of some of the other participants at his professional training in Rhinebeck, New York. "You've come from Australia?" they queried in disbelief. Although there were over 100 professionals there from all parts of the world, I had traveled the farthest. During this training, I was to experience a most powerful healing that took me completely by surprise. Brian was conducting stage regressions with selected audience members. How I longed to be one of them, but with so many of us eager to volunteer, he was only able to do a limited number of demonstrations before encouraging us to practice in small groups. Visualize over 100 people in a hall filled to capacity, with small group regressions going on everywhere, and you can imagine the noise level. I was feeling disappointed at not having a personal regression with Brian, and when it was my turn to be regressed, I clearly remember thinking as I lay down on the hard floor, yeah, like this is really going to work with all this racket going on. I was acutely aware of all the background noises one of the women in my group led me through the induction process. My mind was wandering to different parts of the hall, hearing snatches of conversation here and there, when suddenly I felt my body jerking and my head turning to glance over my right side. I was to find out later that I had not moved my body at all at that point. In some amazement, I found myself looking down at the wooden wheel of a cart as it was jolting along a cobbled street. At the same time that my subconscious mind was registering this, I was clearly aware of my conscious mind thinking, that's why it's jolting, because it's carved out of one solid piece of wood. They couldn't get it perfectly round in those days. It was most bizarre to be experiencing something on one level and understanding it on another, and yet in that moment it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Shortly after, I became aware of an uncomfortable feeling of restriction in my legs, as if they were bound or tied in some way. Afterward, the women in my group told me that I was rubbing my two legs up and down against each other, as though I were trying to free them. Although I was unaware of this at the time, it later made perfect sense. Apparently it was the Inquisition, and I was being taken on a wooden cart to be burned at the stake as a witch, simply for practicing my healing arts. Strangely enough, I wasn't scared, just angry. How dare they punish me, and many others like me, for trying to help people who needed healing. I was frustrated by their stupidity rather than the act of violence itself, and I was aware that this feeling was directed specifically at the men. I have a vague recollection of flames and lots of jeering faces. 10 years later, the details are not as clear, but the experience itself is as vivid now as it was then. The whole experience seemed to last a few minutes. I found out that it had taken almost an hour. The restriction in my legs was indeed because they were bound with rope. What was even more amazing to me was that I had suffered very badly from psoriasis for the last 20 years, particularly on my legs, at the exact place where I had felt the ropes rubbing. In fact, I was so embarrassed about it that I always wore long pants rather than skirts or dresses, because it looked so unsightly. After the regression, my facilitator, a wonderful woman who was also there as a participant, told me that she felt intuitively that my anger with men was linked to the rash on my legs. Thankfully, someone had the presence of mind to suggest taking a photograph of my legs for future reference. I am thrilled to be able to enclose a recent photo, taken some 10 years later, which show my legs almost completely healed. The healing process started immediately after the regression, and it continued until they cleared, about 6 months later. Interestingly enough, I still experience a slight recurrence whenever I get stressed, which serves as a timely reminder to let go of any negative emotion surrounding my experience. Surrounding my experience. I am now a regression therapist working from Perth, Western Australia, and seeing many similar experiences in my own clients. Brian's belief that our experiences are held within our cellular memories makes perfect sense when I reflect upon the emotional and physical healing that I, and many of my clients, experience during regression work. Once the memory is released and made conscious, the healing seems to automatically follow in most cases. I have even had a case of spontaneous healing from long-term pain in the breast, despite the fact that the woman I was regressing doubted that her experience was real. She later wrote to me to tell me that, to this day, her symptom has never returned. Valerie Coventry. This is a wonderful account of the power of past life therapy. Valerie's summary is so simply and clearly stated: once the memory is released and made conscious, the healing seems to automatically follow in most cases. Psoriasis can be a very difficult condition to heal, but Valerie was able to accomplish such a feat just by remembering. In her case, she did not need medication, light therapy, or any other treatment. When using past life regression therapy to treat illnesses or symptoms more severe than psoriasis, conventional treatments can be continued while the client is experiencing the regressions. This is the essence of complementary medicine, the use of simultaneous therapeutic modalities. It does not matter which technique is the more effective one, as long as the cure is achieved. Valerie's regression demonstrates other features of a classical and real past life experience, in addition to the remission of symptoms. Her sense of time distortion, an hour seemed like a few minutes, is a sign of reaching a deep level of relaxation and concentration. At this level, fears can be dissolved, and physical and/or emotional healing can be obtained. Ambient noise did not interfere, for her subconscious mind recognized the opportunity for healing and disregarded distractions. You do not need a sensory deprivation chamber to reach this deep, altered state. Also, her conscious mind was observing and commenting at the same time that she was experiencing the past life scenes. She understood about the wooden wheel, yet she stayed in the highly focused state. Valerie's case is a good one to reread and contemplate because it genuinely reveals the nuances and essence of past life regression. Soulmate. This is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.